Yay, it's working.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, so participants, looks like we are.
Hi, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Recording in progress.
Desiree, have you heard from Danny Dodge Jr.?
I haven't heard at all from him for quite some time.
Okay. So I'm not sure if he's going to be on as our chair. And Ari says she's running a few minutes late, so
Okay.
it might be your show, Yam Lowell, if you're willing to step in to facilitate until others get here.
No, I'm just going to hang up and go away.
Sounds good. I mean, it looks like you're the only board member on so far too. So
That's okay. We'll wait and see who shows up. Of course, I'll help out in whatever way it needs to be done.
great. I don't
But
think
if somebody has Dodge's contacts, they might reach out to him. You know, we only have these meetings a couple of times a year, so it's easy to,
Yep.
easy. Should be easy.
Should be, yeah. Yeah, we don't on our end have his or haven't been able to get a hold of his contact information. But it looks like somebody's raising their hand.
Yes, I'm trying to get her to unmute. It's Cindy. I know Cindy mentioned she was going to be calling in. So let me just try to get her to
I think I just unmuted myself. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I am here. I'm on the phone. I'm in Corralito, so I do not have enough signal to video join you, but I'm here.
Awesome. I'm just seeing your text now too, Kate, Cindy.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I told Desiree yesterday when we doodled for times, it was pre-school starting and dance class and soccer practice. And, 2 months ago, anytime worked for me. And now I'm in Corralitos at dance class.
Are you doing the dance school that's outside right by that winery, right by Vaquero?
It's right on the corner. It's Corralitos Dance School. It's like right on the, like right off of Freedom.
Yeah, yeah. My daughter was dancing there for a while too.
Oh, so far so good. We really like Charlie. So
Nice.
So Mick, do you know if we're gonna want to move this meeting also back in person, or is it gonna stay virtual?
I think that's something we can talk about today as we get to the end of the meeting. I mean, I'd imagine we should move this back to in-person as well, since all of our other meetings, both on the city end and the district end, are back in person.
Yeah.
But I think that's up for discussion.
Okay.
All right, we've got one more. Perfect.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
Hi, Clara.
Hi, sorry, I was running back from another meeting back to my office. I apologize for that.
Sure, we know how that goes.
I got a little too cut up over there.
Good, good. We hope it was productive for you.
Yes, thank you.
And we're just waiting on other members to pop on. Danny Dodge is our chair and he's not here. And then Ari is our vice chair and she's not on yet either. So I think we're in the same predicament as last time around. But we could wait a few more minutes or someone else could step in to at least start the meeting. Let me see here. It's gonna look at our bylaws. I'm pretty sure the bylaws for this GPA say that with 3 members, you can officially hold a meeting, even though it's not 50% plus 1. But then again, they're really old bylaws as well, so. Okay, so officially for quorum for this body, we need 4 directors, 2 from the city and 2 from the district. So we have 2 from the city, 1 from the district right now. But I'm not sure if we have any actionable items for today. I think it's mostly just updates once again, and then I think we'll need to look at scheduling another meeting to circle back on the agreement. So I think it's up to our board members as to whether we want to wait a few more minutes or go ahead and start and just roll through with updates and schedule the next meeting, or if we want to wait longer.
I was looking for the minutes and I didn't see exactly where they were at.
Let's see here. If you go to the agenda for today, there should be a link on the agenda to the minutes from August 18th.
I think I reviewed them once before, but
I can,
They were also on the attachment. I believe there was the agenda. It had the attachment also kind of all together. So it was probably, let's see here, the 3rd page into the agenda. It starts off with the minutes.
thank you very much.
No problem.
Oh, I see them now. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice short meeting as I remember. Maybe today will be short too. We're gonna make sure Clara's probably got 3 or 4 more meetings still to go.
It just happens to be one of those days, meeting after meeting, you know.
That's okay. We'll get this one done and we'll make some progress, hopefully.
so I guess do we want
Well,
to a little longer, or do one of our board members want to start the meeting and serve as chair until we have a chair?
I was gonna say, if it's non-actionable items, it'd be nice to get started. Though I don't think I would be the best chair since I can't see. So I don't know if Lowell maybe wants to volunteer to be the chair for the day and get us going.
Sure, I'm glad to do that. And so let's commence this meeting of the Mello Center for Performing Arts Joint Powers Authority of September 22nd. This is the first day of fall, so congratulations to all the fall lovers. Let's start out with roll call if we could. Nick, are you calling the roll?
I'll be calling the roll call.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Okay, let's start off with Ari Parker, Lowell Hurst,
I'm here.
Cindy Scissorwin,
Here.
Daniel Dodge Jr., Clara Fernandez,
Present.
Gary Webb,
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and those who haven't yet joined, hopefully will pop up here in a few minutes. Let's take a chance to review the agenda and see if there's any additions or deletions to our agenda. Do we have any comments or deletions or additions to the agenda?
Nope.
Seeing none, let's go back to approving the minutes of August 18th. They are attached to the agenda. As I said previously, it was a nice short meeting, and but there's much to do, and I'm anxious to, of course, hear how the Mello Center is going. And I know that the trustees did have a meeting there recently. I wasn't able to attend, but I'm glad to hear a report on all of that. So, seeing there's no additions or deletions from the agenda, let's just go to the minutes, and if everybody has reviewed those, could we get a motion, please, for approval of the minutes of August 18th?
So just as a quick reminder, we unfortunately don't have quorum as of yet. We need one more board member from the district ends, but we can come back to this later if we have someone else.
Okay, well, there's the minutes for those who wish to review them.
And this is Andy. I can't open it on mine, so if someone could send me those again, it'd be greatly appreciated. The minutes from the July 20th meeting.
for July.
Sorry. Yes.
Not this past meeting that we had in August.
Sorry, maybe I'm not looking at the right thing.
And I think
I'm sure those July meeting minutes are somewhere. They're
Yeah.
part of posterity and history.
did you want the Andy? Did you want the July or the August? The meeting that we had this past meeting in August.
The most recent meeting would be great.
Okay. Were you able to open up the attachment on Friday that was sent out with the agenda?
I'm looking for it.
That came from Marco.
Yes, Marco Diaz.
yeah.
And I just resent the email to you, Andy, also, in case you can't find it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I see. Marco Diaz. I had an event on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to even look at this. Okay.
Well, it looks like we have another short meeting here today, so I think we're going to have I'm not sure if there's anything under new business that we need to deal with. I see a presentation in oral communications. Shall we open it up to the public and see if there's any public members that wish to address the JPA on any matters that concern the JPA and the public?
I don't see any members from the public logged in.
Well, let's move on then to oral communications from the committee members. Let me just comment that for the record, you know, I'm here to make sure that we do have a continuation of the JPA and that we have an opportunity to highlight the Mello Center in any way we can for public usage, as well as support the school's good work with the Mello. And as Henry often said, it is, well, he didn't admit this publicly, but he privately said, hey, this is the jewel of Watsonville in many ways. And so let's keep good things happening for the Mello, I say. Anyone else from the committee that wants to go on record?
Yes, I would like to speak to that matter as well. Obviously, as a principal here at Watsonville High, we highly pride ourselves with being part of the Mello Center, of having it here on our site. And the more we can highlight its usage and its purpose to our community in general, and obviously for student events, the better. So we are more than happy to continue our partnership with the city, because ultimately I think we're all here working for a common goal, which is obviously maintaining our Mello Center and making the best use of it. So I'm happy for that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Clara. We like your attitude, that's for sure. And we hope you're getting adjusted in your new position, although it probably seems like an old position by now with all you've been. But congratulations to you. And we're happy to work with you in whatever way we can.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the committee that wishes to leave a reminder for future viewers of our minutes? Seeing no comments at this time, I have text Daniel Dodge Jr. to let him know that we are meeting, and perhaps next time we can get reminders out earlier on. And hopefully Ari will be joining us soon, and Chairman Dodge too.
And so who would we need from the district side? Gary to make a quorum for us? Is that right?
Correct. Either Gary or Daniel Dodge Jr.
Oh, Daniel Dodge.
Do we want to move forward with any facility updates, or do we want to wait until we have a quorum?
I would say let's just move forward. I mean, with the next 3 items, there aren't anything actionable regarding any of them. So it's all just status updates, and we can provide those and keep the day moving.
That'd be great. Please proceed with the facility status updates, item number 5C on our agenda.
I'll be happy to jump in on that. So just off the top of my head, what we had last week, we had a district special board meeting that we hosted on Wednesday night. And that was related to SROs being on campus of all PVUSD's campuses. we had about 150 people attend that event, and it went relatively smoothly. We had some folks who did not want to wear their masks and were called out by the crowd as not wearing their masks. So I went down and talked to them, and they weren't willing to be compliant. They told me, go ahead and call the cops. So I pulled out my phone and walked back to the soundboard where I was working. And luckily there was a Watsonville PD person on site, and he went and talked to the folks. And shortly thereafter, part of the group left, and the other individual that stayed found a mask and wore it. So how we proceed with events and how the public maybe does not want to comply with certain mask mandates would be something I'm asking for feedback from the district on how we should handle that in the future. The general course, or what the anti-maskers were saying, is it's just a county mandate. There's no teeth to that. You can't kick us out. So as far as I'm understanding, it's the district policy that we are adhering to the county mandate. Therefore, we should be able to eject them should they refuse to wear a mask. So that was a very interesting dynamic that came up. The second event we had last week was Friday night. We hosted the bilingual poetry reading, and there was a special dedication to Pete Galvan, a long-term staff member here at Watsonville High, who was very active in a lot of the different bilingual events. So we had his band, and then we had a bunch of student performers on stage, which I wasn't really prepared for. No one told me they were coming. So it was a very exciting Friday night, but all went well. Again, about 150 people attended that event. And I've got a pile of community events that want to happen. So I've been penciling them in our calendar. I'm looking forward to reviewing updates to our event agreement that I'd love to propose and see those get pulled together relatively quickly if we could, as well as recommendations on our JPA operational agreement that's coming from our district leaders, and I can give you a little overview of that today. So yeah, a couple of items that we really need to focus on sometime soon with a quorum. Other than that, we are moving right ahead with some PVUSD events. And like I said, I do have some events that want to confirm. The number one is the symphony, who we talked about last time. And again, we just need to approve that agreement and also look at the JPA operational agreement.
Sounds good. Let's get those on our next agenda to study up on. And if there's something we can do today, once we have a quorum, we're glad to entertain that as well. Sounds like a very interesting school board meeting. You know, I probably attended a couple of hundred of them in my day, and some of them are pretty interesting. And so I'm glad that, you know, it was a good trial run for the public, and hopefully a good discussion. And Clara, were you there too?
No, I was not part of that board meeting.
Sounds like fun.
Yes. So
Hey,
fun
no-
that I was not part of it, right?
Yeah, only you would say that, Lowell.
Well, you know, we do love entertaining discussions, and
Yeah.
and there's always a diversity of opinion throughout the community, and we do need a nice big forum like the Mello Center that people can grandstand and shake their finger at each other on, and still be on the other side of the room, literally and sometimes figuratively.
Mhm.
I'll relinquish the temporary chairmanship to Ms. Parker.
Oh, my. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So, okay. All right. Where are we on the agenda before I jump right in?
We're still having
Please.
some discussion on facility status updates, and we can go back
see.
and approve the minutes from the August 18th meeting now that,
We have
Or-
quorum.
do we have a quorum yet?
We actually don't have quorum quite yet. We need one more person from the district end to join.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's all yours,
My
Ari.
goodness. So we're not, we'll go back to 2A then when I guess Danny's running late as well. Sorry about that, folks. So we're on facilities updates, and you talked about the meeting that just took place there. I can hear it was lively, and how the Mello did during that time, and it was good. We can go on to, I guess, 5D, since we discussed 5C facility, or is that where we are?
That's us. 5C is where we're at right now.
Okay, 5C, we'll start with that. And Andrea Botsford discussed the request received to use the Mello Center for upcoming events. Would like to discuss, it sounded like just what I was listening to when I came in the door. So we'll continue with that. And who would like to speak to that?
So what are we working on?
I know, 5C. We're talking about the things that you mentioned just a few moments ago about the symphony. No events have taken place in this year. One bus training, you had a major meeting there just recently. And so we're discussing the actual request that you have at this time. I know you mentioned the symphony.
Yes. So for the symphony, where we're kind of still mulling over on the district end is how to best function in the future. So the big part of that is that and Clara, jump in anytime if I'm not stating things correctly, is the district would like to manage the funds that come in for community events and figure out a way of distributing money back to the city for their staffing and any custodial services that they coordinate. So this is something that we've been kind of mulling over really very recently, but it's going to require some changes to our event agreements and also our JPA operational agreements.
Okay, so let me jump. This is a facility status update. So maybe before we talk about, well, we'll put that on the thing that we're talking about who manages funds. Maybe I'm going to go back to our last meeting in conjunction with this and ask Director, and correct me, please, Nick. Darn it, say it again. Your last name.
Kalubakib.
Kalubakib. I want to say it's a kib, right?
It's a kib, yeah. Yep.
Kalubakib. Okay, I'm getting better. It's in my head. But the last time I know you had suggested to have a meeting with Principal Fernandez, right? And Andrea to discuss the operations center. Were you guys able to meet?
Yes, we met last week and discussed some of the suggestions that Andy had. It sounded like Gary had some other thoughts based on feedback that he heard from Clint and from Dr. Rodriguez. And so I think they were going to go back and further discuss and work on developing a draft, but I'm not sure what the status is as of that discussion.
Okay, so Andy, that's what you're referencing. Is that correct? You're referencing that discussion and the fact that it went back to the district, and then that the further discussion about who would manage the funds. Could you tell me, Nick, who's doing that now? Who's managing the funds for any of these things?
So technically, it's the district. As of September of 2020, the JPA approved the most current agreement that places the responsibility for booking events back on the district end, which means that the financials also should be collected by the district as well. I think So I think that's where it sits currently. I mean, I think I get the sense from Andy that there's just some logistics that need to be worked out as to how that actually functions and happens on the ground level. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd also like to review what happened at that meeting that we, in my mind, when the city proposed the new operating agreement, which essentially took out the city's role in most everything, the decision was we would hold off for 6 months or so to evaluate that agreement and how it would impact the district. And so in my mind, that agreement was never approved technically. So I'm curious how to resolve that kind of blurry area of what agreement are we operating under?
So
Okay, well, we probably have minutes that could actually define that. Go ahead, Nick, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, sorry. I think what I was going to chime in and say is that from what I recall and my understanding of what took place during that meeting is that the JPA adopted the revised operational agreement as the current agreement that we operate from and be in place, with the understanding that in the next 6 months to a year, I mean, really just depending on how things panned out with COVID, that we would come back to the table and discuss whether or not further changes would need to be made to that agreement, which I think is where we are today. Is looking at that agreement that was adopted back in September of 2020, and now saying is this the direction that we want to keep moving forward, or are there changes that we want to make to improve the operations at the Mello?
Yeah, and that was my recollection at the time. And I know it was all, the holding off wasn't to see how it was working. It was more like the pandemic is kind of making everything stop. So we really don't know what's going forward. I'm going to jump back to our agenda because it seems to me, my bad. We were talking about facility status updates that went into that because Andy was talking about other things. But Andy, has there been any other updates for, I know you had plans, and the next thing on the agenda is future replacement expenditure plan. So that's something we, I think it asked for the last meeting to have a list of what it was, because I think there was some confusion about why some of this stuff hadn't happened, and maybe that was money or not. And so we want to jump into that, and then we can go back to this operational agreement unless someone wants to make a motion and change the agenda. I just don't want to go out of order since I'm just filling in. So otherwise, let's go back to our facility status update. Is there anything that has, and this would be for Andy, I guess, is there anything that has been changed or updated or is in the process of, or you're in bidding situations for any of these, the things that we'll talk about?
So yeah, there's no real updates. We're still
Okay.
getting calls for community events that want to rent the Mello. So I've been talking with some folks over the phone, and I've had a couple people drop in to get tours and get a sense of what they would need in terms of renting the Mello. So
Okay.
hence the need to kind of get going on our agreement.
No, we'll get to that. I promise.
Okay. Great.
And we'll move on to 5D then, if there's no members of this body or any member. Do we have any public members that have joined us here today?
We do not.
Okay, great. Okay, so future replacement expenditure plan. And that was something that we talked about last time, and somebody can speak to that if you'd wish. It was about all those things that Andy had earmarked that needed to be replaced or needed to be enhanced or whatever. And we were going to discuss that and maybe have that plan available to us.
So Clara and Gary and I met, and we brought Gary up to speed on the history and where we stood with the last allocation of funds was from fiscal year 1920. Since then, we haven't had any events, so there are no maintenance funds to attribute to any future needs. But the 1920 funds came to about $4,200, and those were earmarked for house lighting repairs, aisle lighting repairs, and then a third key item is carpeting, which is a larger assessment, and we're looking at about $30,000 to replace the carpeting. Could be more because every single chair would need to be removed, and that's quite a complex process. So Gary knows that aisle lights and house lights are the key items we need to assess ASAP. This all came about in the year of 2019. And that's when Joe Dominguez, the previous CBO for the district, departed. And then since then, we've had some rotation of CBO and new maintenance directors. So Gary knows about it now and is trying to work with his crew to assess the cost of those repairs.
Okay, so anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Councilman Hurst?
Thank you very much. I just kind of want to hear how it went with the school board meeting and sound and lights and carpet and seating and everything else. And I'm sure that was kind of a good trial run. And I'm sure there's been some other school functions with students in the house recently. And so this is a good opportunity to kind of see what more needs to be done and when it can be done and how we can get it done. So was there any feedback from those two recent events regarding, the facility itself?
Yeah, our school board meeting, I think it's just some communication things that I need to really hone in on with producers. With the school board meeting, they were going to require 11 mics, and I requested that they provide their own sound person, but that didn't end up happening. So I was kind of thrown into running the soundboard, which was fine, but it meant I didn't have a break at all that night. And we did have some challenges with the sound system. It hadn't been really turned on and used to that extent in over a year and a half. So there were some bugs I had to quickly assess and figure out. So we had a little buzz in the system for the first, I think, 15, 20 minutes. And we had to strike some of the mics that were non-operational. We have some bugs in our soundboard. So we needed to have the board members kind of share a few of the mics, and that seemed to work well in the end. So that was the school board meeting. Other than that, I think everything went relatively well. And the the bilingual poetry event, kind of a similar situation. For PVOC events, often I can run both sound and lighting from within the booth. I was told a couple days before the event that Pete Galvan and his band were going to be performing, and I was like, okay, great, we can handle that. And then as I'm setting up Pete's band, I'm noticing all these students coming in with instruments. And so we needed another 6 mics that I was throwing together at the very last minute. So I have created a new form for our PVOSD producers that's a little more detailed and asking more specifics and asking for stage plots of where they need their mics. So it's really just honing in on who's responsible for what and making sure that all comes together. So yes, that's my report on the recent events.
Good. Well, that answers my questions, and I'm glad that you're so flexible and you can adjust under those circumstances, Andy. And you're right that the communication is always probably the more difficult part. But if the equipment is not functioning well, that needs the bugs to be worked out, certainly. Thank you very much for your report.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like, has a question or a comment? Okay. Well, I do have a quick question about it too, is when the district, and you're gonna have to remind me, I feel like a slow starter today. When the district uses it like that, has an event there, or we use it, what are the parameters in which we fall under in our agreement?
So depends on what agreement you're talking about, but.
The agreement in
histor-
which we last all voted on?
Okay, I'm not clear on what that was, but that's okay. I'll tell you the historical was,
Oh,
PBU,
Andy.
I don't know what to say, but I'm giving you the overview.
Okay, the
So-
one Nick was talking about, that's the one I'd like to, so on that one.
Okay, so on that one,
Mm-hmm.
it was that the city was basically taking out most of their responsibilities, but they were retaining the right to have events at the Mello Center. So it meant the district was then coordinating all city events.
Okay, and so, and then the district, so I'm thinking, you know, for the, all the stuff that you were going through, I was listening to what you were saying, and I agree with Lowell that took a lot of shifting at the last second to do things, which also allows you to revamp your questions in the future to get a little deeper into it. So many times they don't even think about it when they're coming, you know, if they're adding things for schools. I know we do it at the last minute. And so I was wondering if there is a financial burden for the city and the financial burden for the district when they use it for meetings or whatever they use it for.
So when the district is hosting a district event in the Mello Center, there's no fees exchanged. My pay is coming out of district funds. So producers don't have to pay anything unless there was going to be some kind of special sponsorship. If the district said, no, we're not going to produce this Driscoll's charity event, but we will co-sponsor it. And according to our agreement, the entity that's willing to co-sponsor has to pay that amount that it would normally cost. So that's in terms of district. So now if I were to be hosting a community event, which is a non-district event, the established fees would be charged to that producer.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, no, it gets me closer into the ballpark. I appreciate that, Andy. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mind if I just add something? So I think I would just add that if the city hosted an event at the Mello under the current agreement, you know, using some of the hours or days that are written into the agreement that the city has access to the facility for, if there's any hard costs associated with that use, like janitorial or Andy's overtime, or you know, if we pay for a light technician, then all of those costs would be borne on the city.
Good. Can we get a copy of that?
Yes.
Could we get an email copy for everyone? That would be great. So we know what agreement we're speaking of and the details on it. That'd be wonderful. So if we have, so we were technically at the future replacement expenditure plan, but Andy was saying, you know, there was $4,200 in there that was spent in 19 and 20. And this is 21, 22, and the booking hasn't happened yet, so we don't have a bank account. Is that right, Andy, with funds in it?
Right. So there is still the funds from, sorry. There are still funds from 1920. That 4,200 is still sitting in account to go toward the items that the JPA approved, which was the aisle lights and the house lights. Since we haven't had any events, there is no funds toward our standard improvements that the JPA would approve. There's definitely some things in the building that need to be addressed. And those might be things that PVUSD shells out money for. I don't know. Gary's kind of still getting up to speed on all that.
So it'd be great too, then, if we could get a list of that as well. So if Gary has that list, that's great. And he'll have his own internal discussion, and then we can have our internal discussion and come back together. Am I speaking incorrectly? I'm
No,
waiting
there is,
for any corrections. Yeah.
I can provide a copy of what was dispersed at the meeting where that was approved back in, I don't know, maybe July of 2020. So I can provide you that. I provided Nick a copy of it recently. It's pretty comprehensive. So
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Good.
It includes
And-
all our inventory, and then it includes recommendations of the lifetime of those items, and then what's earmarked for kind of needed upgrades ASAP.
Right, the 4,200 that's earmarked for aisle and house lights, have you taken bids for those aisle and house lights so we can get a move on with that?
No, Gary is planning on having his crew assess them. He's got electricians as part of his crew, but to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. But again, we just met with him maybe 2 weeks ago, and it's,
I'm
you know,
smiling because I've worked for the school district for 34 years, and there's not that many electricians in our school district. It's like plumbers. And to think that that's going to happen that way, that might just be the biggest slowdown in the history of mankind. So I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know if anybody else has an opinion on that, but it would be nice to have that information. So you haven't put that out because Gary said not to, or Gary, because that's been sitting there since the last time we talked. I'm just curious.
If I may jump in, so it has been brought up to Gary's attention, and it is our understanding that Gary, being the director of M&O, he has certain individuals that work to perform obviously certain tasks. So he has to make sure that he's running it by these folks before we're able to contract out.
Okay, that's if the district's going to pay for it, right? Okay,
Correct.
so I'm a little confused about, and maybe Nick, you need to speak to that. Just like if we've already earmarked $4,200 that have come from that time period, is that the way that the discussion was in, you know, when we had this agreement that the district will take on the improvements of the internal things that are going on there? And it's fine if it is. I just wanted to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been the general understanding from this JPA. Because the facility itself is owned by the school district. I think the understanding has been that the district has a responsibility of any physical improvements to the facility because they own the building.
Okay, so the 4,200 sits there earmarked, and Gary is, as Clara said, is evaluating and internally going through the process. And do you know, Andy, did he give you an insight how long that process would take?
No, he didn't. He was attempting to get it addressed right away, but it's been crazy making here with the school district and school starting and everything else. So
I know how that feels. So, so who will communicate with Gary then to see that we would like a report on that information and where the process is, so we can actually keep our agenda moving forward?
I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, so Clara will do that. Great, thank you, Clara. And then we can get his report and then how he's going to handle the 4,200 plus also whatever else is going to move forward. That'd be great. Okay, super. And then let's jump to the all-inclusive, but still not agreed upon in some people's minds, operational agreement check-in. So you did have a talk. Is that, Nick, you want to review that again really quickly?
Yeah, so we had a chance to meet Clara, Andy, Gary, and myself. I think it was last Monday, to just check in on the proposed changes that Andy had sent I think at least the four of us in an email previously. And we went through each item kind of one by one. It sounded like there were some differences of opinions on the district's end on some of the thoughts there. And so where we left off was that I think Andy, Clara, and Gary were going to circle back up and talk through what exactly is being proposed as far as changes go from the district end, and then we'd work on actual changes to the agreement to bring back to the JPA for discussion. But I think we're not quite at that point yet where we have actual written changes. So I think where we are at is probably just looking for an update from the crew at Watsonville High to give us their current thoughts.
Correct. Good job, Nick.
Thanks.
Okay. So we're going to get a copy of the last standing operational agreement that we voted upon. And then at the next meeting, we will hear a report back from the district's conversation. Will you be, Nick and Clara, will you guys be meeting again to go over that? And then bring back something to the JPA, or will you bring it back and we'll discuss it in the JPA?
I would prefer that we meet before the JPA meeting.
Yeah.
So that we can
Okay.
Same here.
So, okay, great. So then that discussion will happen and we'll put that in our notes, and that you'll bring whatever has resulted from that final conversation back to us the next meeting. Super. That's great. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions on this particular, on 5E? Mr. Hurst?
Yeah, I just, I don't know how appropriate it is for the JPA members to, bird dog all the budget issues. I'm sure that, there's work orders that have been issued that might be helpful for us to kind of see what has been done or what's planned to be done. And I know those things take a long time sometimes to sort out, especially if they require, outside operators to replace lights or something like that. But I just want to make sure that, there are resources allocated toward the Mello, and, might be helpful for us to have some idea of the line item budget items that have been processed and will be processed, and maybe some idea about what the workflow of repairs and, maintenance type things, what was paid for cleaning, or just so that there's kind of an idea as to what future renters might have to go through, and some idea as to what really needs to be done in the future, maintenance and safekeeping wise. Just some thoughts.
Great. Well, I what I'm hearing from you is you don't think it's our position to micromanage.
No,
generally, and yes.
But at the same time, I think it's helpful for the JPA to know what needs to be done and what has been done, and
Yes.
where do we go in the future?
Good. Okay.
And if I can
Okay.
add something to that.
Andy?
So typically we would meet in July or even a little earlier to start discussing budget. So I do have a budget for this year. We hadn't met in over a year really to discuss anything on budget. So I can provide that at the next meeting.
That's great.
Sounds good. I'm glad to take
Yeah.
a look at whatever wants to be shared or whatever is pertinent, so that we can, have good ideas and generate even better ideas.
Right. Absolutely. Because I think we do want to support the Mello for the community, as it were. Okay. Well, we come to the end of our agenda where it says the word adjournment. And unless there's some emergency or any other addition to our agenda for next time that anyone would like. And who should we contact, Nick, if we would like to add to the agenda?
I'd say just contact Desiree directly.
Okay.
She is the person who's charged with putting together our agenda. I'd also suggest that we try to pick our next meeting date and time before we
Yes.
adjourn.
So that's why I didn't joyfully say adjournment. We needed to.
Well, there will be some items that need kind of continuation here since we didn't have a quorum today. And
Yep.
so I would assume that, this agenda will just kind of roll over into the next one as well with added updates and other added items as the group sees fit.
I agree. And with the reports that we request and the information, yeah, then they'll just go underneath wherever it would fit. Does anybody have a thought for our next meeting date?
I did want to mention, we do, I know we're moving in person, and so I don't know if we want to discuss for the next meeting, maybe if we wanted to consider days, the times, and in person, since I think that's the direction that we're starting to move to for our meetings.
Yeah, we are starting to move, but didn't the governor also say that we didn't have to at this point? He just gave another, Nick, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, I think that still is an option based on the governor's latest ruling on that and extending the public emergency basically to allow for that exception through the Brown Act. So I think if this group wants to continue to meet virtually, that's definitely an option. I think it's just up for discussion.
And for me, virtually works better just because
I'm
of
good.
between different meetings and whatnot.
I'm good with that, Clara. Anyone else?
That's
just
fine
take a
with me
quick-
too. I just hope that staff will have opportunities to do face-to-face when necessary, because that's a chance for budgetary information and other needs to be communicated in person. But I'm
Yeah.
fine with knowing that those things have transpired and that we can get business.
So the only thing we're lacking this time, though, is quorum. So
Hey,
those people.
Ari, can I
I'm
just
sorry.
jump in 1 second? Sorry, this is Cindy. I've been on the phone.
Oh, hi,
Um,
Cindy.
Hi, I'm here. I'm listening attentively. I would say I don't have a preference of in person or on Zoom, but I would say that this time will not necessarily work for me because I would prefer to actually be on screen and actually see what people are presenting. And it just, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, when Desiree did the doodle 2 months ago, I was wide open. But now that school and after school and all that stuff has began, this time is just really not going to work. So I would like to ask to consider a different time slot, either earlier or later.
Okie doke. So do you have any suggestion on that, Cindy?
I'm fine with Wednesdays, and actually anything after 5:30 would work. If we were to be starting right now, I would be able to meet in person or online.
Okay.
I'm flexible.
Earlier is fine. I do have a standing meeting at 3:30. But that could change. I could make that change if everybody wanted to do it earlier. When you say earlier, Cindy, what do you mean by earlier?
I guess actually in rethinking it, later would be better. I would prefer if we did 5:30 and after.
Okay, is that
It's
a problem for anybody?
It's early release day, as you all know.
Yeah, I do. We may have to change it from Wednesdays because that's board meeting days, or we just have to stay away from board meeting days. Because if we go later.
Yeah, same here. During Wednesdays at pretty much most of Wednesday, I have different meetings. So this is kind of the time block that I do have available unless we move it to an earlier time. And earlier would have to be before noon. So I'm not sure if that would even work for folks. And then I also know Andy works or stays pretty late as well, just to be able to participate in these meetings.
Right. So as we move through, what about moving it to a Thursday from a Wednesday? Problematic or anyone?
Are we talking about October potentially?
Yeah,
Would we be keeping the same time, the 4:30 to 5:30?
uh,
I mean, 4:30 to
Request-
5:30 is
go ahead.
just really difficult with children.
So 5 o'clock, Cindy, is that a 5 o'clock, something that's doable?
5:30. 5:30 is really.
I want Cindy on my
But again,
negotiation team.
I'm also happy to be earlier, you know, but again, I can't trade off with husband until after he gets home from work, right?
I hear you. Okay, that's true. Okay. So does anybody have a suggestion that might move this forward?
Does earlier in the afternoon on a Thursday work for most folks?
I guess what
Earlier,
time? I guess it was, how early would Ari, with your school schedule, how early would you be able
Well,
to?
technically I'm on the clock until about 2:45 or 2:30. So 2:30 I could do it. Just have to remember to come in 15 minutes earlier, but 2:30, I just hate to cross businesses when it comes to that. So it's 2:30 or 3 o'clock. No, that's still,
I
but
could-
earlier than that, I'm still in class. Yeah.
Mhm. I could do that, right? It's that 4:30 to 5:30 window that just becomes hectic.
Okay. So 2:30, is that what we're saying? How does that work
Mhm.
for everyone else?
2:30 works.
That works? Lowell?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Okay, so what day then in October? Today is, what? Well, we have a lot of weeks in this October. So what day would you like it? 2021 in October. When are we ready for that? Because you want to give enough time for you guys to be able to meet again.
Mhm.
The 14th or the 28th? I already have a prior commitment sadly on the 21st and I can't do it then.
The 14th would work best. We do have a full day of different schedules with homecoming on the 28th, so that's going to be difficult
Okay.
to make it.
So how about the 14th, everyone? Is that doable?
Yes.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, the 14th at 2:30, Desiree.
And then I'd make a suggestion too for the next meeting. There's another agenda item is maybe we look at picking a consistent meeting time after next meeting, once we figure out the operational agreement.
I think that's a good idea. And will we be meeting monthly?
So before the pandemic, the group was meeting quarterly, and that seemed to be about right. I think once we get the operating agreement down, I think that's probably appropriate, but I think it all depends on the desire of the group.
Okay.
I think
And-
quarterly has proved sufficient in the past, but there is a need for staff to communicate prior to those meetings.
Yeah, and I think we both need to communicate on both sides to get everybody here so we have quorum and we can make those. So if we're going to meet, we need to be able to approve stuff. And, okey-doke. All right. So do we need a motion to adjourn? Or if we don't have quorum, does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Let's just
Okay,
continue the agenda
We're
on
gonna do.
to the 14th of
Exactly.
October.
great minds think alike, Councilman Hurst. So let's continue this agenda to our next meeting on October 14th at 2:30. And it's nice to see all of you.
Yes, I want to thank all the staff for their hard work and keep up the good job.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Clara, you doing okay?
Yes, we're doing fine. Hanging in here.
Okay, good. Congrats. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Ready. Have a good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
luck, everyone. Thank you.